There's a quote from a poem by T.S. Eliot which says, "We had the experience but missed the meaning. An approach to the meaning restores the experience in a different form." I went through much of my life having experiences but missing the meaning of them. And as I get older, my desire more and more is to understand the meaning of my experiences. For me, in some way, I kind of have to go back and relive the experience again, or reconstruct the experience again as best as I can, because I know my heart is not to be trusted in recalling the experience, because it wants to see it through rose-colored glasses. I feel the need to go back and, as much as I am able, have the experience again in order to get the meaning, because I know I was incapable of getting the meaning the first time around. Now the experience becomes something I can finally learn from and use to grow. I've been thinking a lot lately about how I process things and how I go about finding resolution in my life, which is kind of funny because I've been thinking about how I process as I've been processing. I've noticed it seems to take me so much longer than a lot of other people in my life to work through loss and situations which have caused me grief. I seem to be very slow in this regard as compared to other people around me. It took me a long time to realize this is who I am. I think when you're surrounded by people who seem to get over things quickly and move on, it does leave you feeling as if something is wrong with you. What I've discovered about myself, and what I want to encourage you with today, is that there is nothing wrong with this. This is just truly who you are and who I am. For me, I guess it's been a long road trying to figure all this out. And it can make it more difficult when you get advice from people who don't understand. This is why you have to be very careful when seeking advice from others. We can seek advice as long as we are in a place where we are able to discern or filter or disseminate what is being said to us. If we can't do that, advice can sometimes be very destructive to us because it leaves us feeling that something is wrong with us, and that's just because we are comparing ourselves with others' processes and it doesn't match up. These people can be very well-meaning, but they don't always understand that not everyone is like them, and we're all guilty of this from time to time. After going through some difficult things in life, I remember someone saying to me that it was okay that I was having trouble now, but if I was still feeling like this a year from now, and she left it unspoken, like it would be a problem. I knew it was kind of a ridiculous statement as soon as I heard it. There is no neat and tidy formula for grief. You cannot assign a timetable for grief. You can't just set the clock and say, okay, 6 months from now I'll be ready to move on. You just can't do that. Some people can get over things in weeks or a few months, but for others it may take years. I don't think anyone should be setting a timetable for someone else's grief and loss. Had I been younger and received that advice, I believe it would have been very devastating to me because it would have caused me to think something was wrong with me. But when I received this advice, thankfully, I knew better. I guess through what I've experienced, even I have been somewhat surprised at how long it has taken me to work through things. And because of this deep need to understand things, as far as I can understand them and as much as I can understand them, my mind never gives up on it. At times, I'll be honest, it kind of feels like torture. But when I get out of the dark spaces, I realize it's necessary, even though it doesn't feel good. Growth never feels good, does it? We hear about little kids having growing pains, and it hurts. I had growing pains as a kid. It hurt, and at night I would cry because my legs hurt so badly, so my mother would put rubbing alcohol on them to numb them so I could sleep. Growth hurts. To just want to gloss over everything and paint everything with some kind of fairy tale brush is not helpful, because sometimes we have to go through mentally taxing times in our life in order to grow and to get past where we are into the next stage. It's the molting thing. It's all the analogies in nature, how reptiles shed their old skin and insects come out of their shells so they can grow bigger and stronger. It's the same with us. We have to go through these painful experiences in order to grow. So when bad things happen to us and other people are telling us we can't spend time in the darkness, I don't believe that's helpful, because I believe you must in order to get to the next stage of development. So for me personally, I've been trying to make sense out of much in my life. I've had a lot of questions. I've had to examine myself for patterns of behavior which were taught to me that weren't productive, helpful, or healthy. Our childhood shapes us, for better or for worse. There are patterns to our behavior which can be studied once you know what you're looking for. Childhood is very formative. You are trained in a certain way, and it takes a long time to see it, unless you are a very self-aware kind of type. But that wasn't my experience, and I don't think that's going to be our experience. No matter in what kind of environment you were raised, at some point, you have to re-examine it. You make decisions, you feel a certain way, you think a certain way because of your childhood training. And you get to a point in your life where you have to question that training to see if it holds true. And in abusive situations, more often than not, that training is messed up and you have to retrain yourself. There's language for this out there, parenting yourself and so on, however you want to say it, but it is true. I say recondition yourself. That's how I like to think of it. It's difficult because, first of all, you have to recognize in real time when you are having a feeling or thought, when you are acting in such a way that is based upon a past teaching. You have to recognize it, and that's the first step. And it's not as easy as it seems because it's so ingrained in who you are. You don't know to analyze it, so you have to recognize it in real time. The second step is to figure out the appropriate way to think, feel, or react to whatever you are being presented with. When you realize you were trained to think, feel, or react in ways that are not helpful, it will make you want to basically tear down some of the house, so to speak. Examine the foundation, what it's all built on. I feel like I've been dismantling my house. Not entirely, but some things must be taken down, and the building materials have to be examined to see if they're faulty. I've put up this structure with rotting boards and the wrong type of wood or crumbling brick or whatever you want to call it. I have to take this house and dismantle it bit by bit. Not everything is bad. There are some things that are good, but you have to replace what isn't with something stronger in order to strengthen the overall structure. For me, part of my processing has been wanting to understand all of this. And in order to build back the house for me, it's not just knowing that a board is faulty. It's that I have to understand why it's faulty. Why is it like this? So that I don't put up a faulty board again and make the same mistake. There's been this dismantling that's been happening, and it's taken a long time. And I have a tendency to get discouraged in the process. This is because I feel I am making same or similar mistakes as I made in the past, but I don't think that's the case. I almost feel like I am revisiting certain things in order to experience that thing again with wiser eyes, because now, in experiencing that thing I experienced as a child or as a younger person, I can see something more in it. I can see something deeper in it, whereas in the past, in the experiencing of a thing, I was blind in my understanding. I saw something which made me walk away or disturbed me for some reason, but I couldn't understand why. In my mind, it's not good enough that I left the situation for one reason or another. I have to understand why I did. In an attempt at rebuilding my house, I'm finding myself revisiting certain aspects of the past to find the why. Because to find the why is to enable me to put a board back with the right wood, a solid board, a strong brick. The builder who was just told, look, don't use this wood, use that wood, that's not good enough for me. I want to know why I should use that wood and not this wood. I need to understand. There's a need to return to the scene of the crime, if you will, but only to revisit those experiences and or relationships which were important. I found myself revisiting things from my past, revisiting relationships, places, even experiences to see what I can learn. In some cases, it has been extremely heartbreaking to do this. It has been very difficult to do this. But I don't regret it because I had to in order to learn. There is this part of me, this idealistic side of me, which wants to leave things buried in a way. I want to not do any excavating because it's easier to have an idealistic notion of things. You can live in your little fantasy land of how things were, but that's not satisfying for me. And I don't think that's satisfying for us because of this need to know why. But this is where it gets difficult, because if you go back in the past and start digging around, it's going to get rough, and you are going to see things in the light they really exist in, not the idealistic way you remember it. So you have to come to terms with that. It's to destroy illusions. And I often war within myself. Did I want to destroy the illusion? Is there anything wrong with keeping an illusion? But there is with me. I wish sometimes I could be content with keeping the illusion and looking back at things with the rose-colored glasses. But I can't do that. I need to know why. So this need to know has caused me to go back. I know there is a reason there are certain things in my life I felt the need to revisit, because I know it's connected to the situation I'm trying to process, the answers I'm seeking. It's not for the faint of heart, because when you go back into the past and start to do the excavating you need to do, it can be kind of disturbing what you find out. And the thing is, you might not know this at the time you start excavating. You only know you need to do it. You don't really know what you are about to dig up could be very disturbing. But again, growth happens through pain and through hardships. And this is what stops many people from progressing in life. They don't want to confront the disturbing, and looking within can be a very disturbing thing. For me, digging things up, as painful as it's been, has been helpful in the long run, helping me to rebuild my house, making it sure and strong and better able to withstand the future storms.